What if I told you that your blessing isn't on the way, that it's already here? Well, today I'm going to share out of the book of Genesis, and it's the story of Hagar and her son Ishmael. And a little backstory, right, on Hagar and how she's Egyptian. She's an Egyptian servant to Sarai, which God later changed her name to Sarah. So you know her as Sarah. If you read Genesis 16, start there, and it will unfold the story. However, Sarai was actually Abram's wife, right? So all this is going to tie together. It's going to make sense, okay? Now, Abram's wife is Sarah, and now Abram, his name also changed to Abraham. So now you know the story of Abraham, which Abram means high father, and then Abraham means father of many nations. Also, you know him as the father of faith, right? Now, Sarai, she couldn't have children. So she thought, right? Couldn't have children at the time. And so I'm just going to give you a little story of how she took matters in her own hand. And it gets crazy. So if you literally read the Bible, it's like a movie, I'm telling you. Now, so Sarai couldn't get pregnant at the time. So she's just like, hey, to her husband, like, I can't, give you a baby right now. So what if I got this good idea, right? What if you just sleep with my servant Hagar, so that way you could have children, right? They wanted many nations out of the children. Now, she's like, think of this. These are where we're talking about people now, okay? Like, these are real people. And put yourself in that predicament. Like, yeah, she's thinking that she's getting old, she can't have kids. But then she's like, yeah, just go sleep with this woman. And of course, the husband's going to be like, really? You want me to sleep with your homegirl? I bet I'm going to do that, right? So just think of it like these are people. These are like, they're just naturally, they're going to, do what they want to do. So they put matters in their own hands, and that's how Hagar birthed Ishmael. And there was so much tension that grew, but before that, you would read about how God made a covenant with Abram. That's if you really think about it, that's how close in relationship that he was with God. Like, he was in close relationship with God, and to have a covenant, right? And so Hagar births Ishmael, the tension grew. So if you think about it, like, you're a woman, you couldn't get pregnant, and then you have this your servant get pregnant, like, as like a surrogate mother, I guess. I don't know. Seems like that, right? That she'll give birth, and basically y'all raise the kid. And what's crazy is that the tension grew out of that. Like, imagine the bitterness or whatever that she was feeling, like, wow, she really got pregnant. She could have been like bitter about it. However, because the tension grew as it wasn't the first time that Hagar went off to the wilderness. Now, she went twice. The first time, she actually ran away. She ran away, and then, the Lord told her to return. And so after that, that's when they were both sent out. So we'll get into that. So God actually met her both times, which is amazing. Now, think of all the baby mama drama happening. You don't like this is real, y'all. This is real. What was good about when she was sent off was the provision was already there. Like, Hagar just needed awareness to see it. So we're gonna go through the scriptures, and we'll break it down. But what's interesting is that provision actually comes through perspective. So I'm gonna say that again. Provision often comes through perspective, and it's not through new resources, right? Because we already have what we need. So the well was there, she just couldn't see it. Now it's her awareness, and obviously God opened her eyes, right? And we're gonna read Genesis. We're gonna go in Genesis, and we're gonna read from Genesis 21 verses 9 to 21. We're gonna go from there. But before that, I do want to mention Genesis 21. This is when Isaac is born, and that's so one child was born from the flesh, and one was a promised son. So we're gonna get into that, and also let me remind you that Abraham was 100 years old, and Sarah was 90. So imagine, she's like, I'm old, like we ain't having no kids. Okay, so Genesis 21 verse 9. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abram, laughing. So basically, Ishmael was mocking Isaac. Okay, so Isaac is born, and that was the promised son. So Sarah and Abraham ended up having a baby at an older age. So that was a blessing, right? Because God always keeps his promises. Okay, God keeps his promises. Now verse 10. So she said to Abraham, cast out the slave woman with her son, for the son of the slave woman should not be her of with my son Isaac. Now, y'all, this is crazy, because imagine how Abraham felt. Like, this was still his son at the end of the day. Like, that's crazy, because to kick out your offspring, man, it's like, it's different when it's like the woman, okay, bye. But the kid too, like, kick out her and her son, like they ain't got no part with each other. Like, imagine how he felt. Imagine you having to leave your son. Like, that's a lot, right? Now verse 11. And the thing was very displeasing to Abraham on his account, but God said to Abraham, so he seeked out God, and God said to Abraham, be not displeased because of the boy and because of the slave, because of your slave woman. But Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For through Isaac shall your offspring be named, and I make a nation of the son of the slave woman also, because he is your offspring. So he still gets blessed, right? Because of being the son of Abraham. So Ishmael still gets blessed. So verse 14. So Abraham rose early in the morning and took bread and a skin of water, so like a bottle of water, and gave it to Hagar, putting it on her shoulder along with the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Listen, I don't know how to say that, but Beersheba. Okay, this is what got me. I was like, whoa, this is crazy, because Abraham was wealthy. He was filthy rich. Like, he could have sent her off with way more than a water bottle and a piece of bread, right? But Abraham, being that he's wealthy, he trusted God, right? Because God will provide. And what God gives is always more than enough, okay? Now, we're going to read verses 15. When the water in the skin was gone, she put the child under one she put the child under one of the bushes. Then she went and sat down opposite him, a good way off, about the distance of a bow shot. For she said, let me not look on the death of the child. As she sat opposite him, She lifted up her voice and wept. And God heard the voice of the boy. He didn't hear her voice, he heard the boy's voice. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said, "What troubles you? Fear not. Fear not. For God has heard the voice of the boy where he is." Right? So it wasn't just that it wasn't her. Yeah, we ultimately cry out to God, but he heard the boy's voice. Yet God had favored him, right? Because of Abraham. That was Abraham's offspring. Now, Ishmael, we know, he started the fight. And remember, he was a child that was born by flesh. And Isaac is the promised son, so he was born through the promise. And what's interesting is the flesh is through the slave woman, and then the promise is through a free woman. And when you think of that, we think of like how we ought to die to our flesh, right? We are to die to our flesh and trust God, and He frees us. Like, we just got to really know that His promises is His promises. And the Lord met her at the wilderness, right? Now let's finish reading. Verse 18. Up, lift up the boy and hold him fast with your hand, for I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes and saw a well of water, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the skin with water and gave the boy a drink. Okay, that's crazy because the Lord opened her eyes. Now, the well was already there. She just wasn't aware of the well. She wasn't aware of the well. And imagine, like, our blessing is already there and we're just not aware of it because we're focused on our circumstances. We're focused on the things that's going wrong. We're focused on the wrong things, right? She literally was like, he's gonna die. And I don't even want to see him. She set him apart from her, but yet she was focusing on the wrong thing. So the well wasn't just like it magically appeared, it was already there. And the Lord opened her eyes and she saw the well of water. Now, verse 20, and God was with the boy, and he grew up. He lived in the wilderness and became an expert with a bow. He lived in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took a wife for him in the land of Egypt. Now, this is just having the awareness, the attention, and the perspective, right? Like, we're already blessed. We are already blessed. And the Lord met her in the wilderness, and provision was present. But she had to just change her perspective. And honestly, this is what happened when COVID hit, and what happened to our business crumbled. When I say crumbled, we were in the travel industry, and this company, it was a giant company that we were part of, literally went bankruptcy. And when I first heard of the business crumbling, I was so hurt because I was so invested. Like, it was my time, it was my effort, it was my everything. Like, when I tell you, like, I lived and breathed this business, and y'all know I love to travel. Since I got off of house arrest, the first thing I did was get my passport. I was like, I'm getting my passport, I'm out, right? But let me tell you, when I found out that happened, I was hurt. I was so hurt. But then, like, all I know is that God is so good, right? Because it's not all bad. Yes, I got all the experiences. I got to travel the world. I met my husband. But that idol had to fall because that was an idol in my life. Like, I put that above everything. And when I say everything, even before God. So that idol of that business had to crumble. It had to break off. Because clearly now I could see that God provided through that whole mess, through everything that happened, He still provided. And I didn't see it then, but I could obviously see it clear now because you could only connect the dots looking backwards, not forward. And Steve Jobs said that. So I was like, this is it. I that had to break off. And God bless me. God bless me. And I was able to put him in his rightful place above everything. And yeah, it's just a blessing because when you change your perspective, like your blessing is already there. And it's your awareness. So even if you feel like you're in the wilderness, or if you're lost, or if you just feel like you're just wandering and you don't know who you are, a sense of your identity, or you don't know what's going to happen, you just feel like giving up, just like how Hagar wanted to just give up and just leave her son there, and she didn't want to see him die. Like, even when you are hurting, just know that you are not being overlooked. Like, God sees you, and he's just a good father. I would love to hear from you. What are some things, like what is a one blessing that you see now that you didn't recognize before? Comment it below because I would love to hear from you. And just know that God's promises is always his promises. And now that Abraham is the father of many nations and so many people are blessed through that, um, through his promises, and provision often comes through perspective. It is not, like I said earlier, that it's not through new resources. Like, the well was already there. Like, Hagar just couldn't see it until God opened her eyes. And blessing was already prepared. Okay? The blessing is a provision. It was already provided in advance. Now, it's not about God giving us the new, but him opening our eyes to see what's already given, right? And just know that your blessing isn't on the way, it's already here. And remember that the Lord left the 99 for you. God bless.